Welcome into Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palullo, who you can follow on X at Palullo, and Josh Jordan. He's at JoshJordan975. And in between our episodes here, you can read their blogs on sportsmap.com. On today's episode, Lance McCullers is raising eyebrows with his latest starts. Should it be raising our hopes? Something not giving hope is the Sugarland guys in the rotation. We'll talk about the pressure being exerted on the bullpen, and we'll debate which is softer, Houston's schedule or their bats. Just a reminder, if not a plea, please hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell for notifications so you know when new content drops. And if you're on the go, we're on all your favorite podcast apps. Just search Stone Cold Stros. So gents, Lance McCullers has looked great his past couple of starts, albeit level of competition, is what it is. But Charlie, you always like to say you play the course in front of you. It begs the question, how much stock are you guys buying in Lance? If he stays healthy the rest of the season, what can his impact on winning be? And maybe specifically, how many wins can he personally account for? Charlie, we start with you.
Boy, out dueling for the portion of the game that he was in, and it was enough to get that elusive first win, 6 starts in. But for the Astros to win the game that Paul Skeens starts, look, in a short series, there's no shocking outcome. But if that wasn't blood in the water, sweep this series, finally have an outstanding road series, and then you turn around and get shut out by someone named Mike Burrows, who'd never won a big league start. He'd only made 2 of them or 3 of them before the game on Wednesday. But he said we'll get to that soft offense as we go. Lance, I'm still wary. Consecutive starts, 102 pitches, and comes back and throws 96 more. Hope they're not being penny wise, pound foolish, keeping him in games a little longer because he's throwing shutout baseball. Lance McCullers has never won half his starts in a season. The one full season or close to it he's had as a big leaguer, he made 28 starts. He wound up with 13 wins. He does not have the offensive support that he had with that Astros club. I also don't think he's going to be a regular 6-inning guy. He missed the first 20% of the season. So he's made 6 starts. I know. You're told there'd be no math. But if Lance stays healthy the rest of the way, he probably has a max of about 18 starts to go. I'll say maybe he wins 7, maybe as many as 8. So add that to the one he has. I will be delightfully stunned if he gets double digits in victories.
Yeah, I mean, it took him, 6 starts to get 1 win. So if we go on that trajectory, you can't imagine it's going to be a whole lot of wins this year. And yeah, Charlie hit it on the head there. 13-5 is the best he's ever done in his career. So it's hard to expect a lot, especially if he's only going 5 innings. You're praying for 6, but even just 5, though, the bullpen's been pretty good in the middle innings. So maybe they can hold those. But if the offense isn't tacking on more runs as you go on in the game, it's going to be hard to get those wins. And I asked Brandon before we taped, are we talking, wins just that the Astros win or wins that go in McCullers, win column there? Obviously, I think it's more likely that he's going to pitch some games that they win than he'll get credited for it. But I think with Lance, you're just hoping that he stays healthy and he continues to look like this. I'm not going to ask for too much and be too greedy with him. If he can just pretty much be a regular in your rotation for the rest of the year and be somewhere around his career ERA, which is about 3.5, I'll be more than happy with that. Especially if he continues like this, he's not your biggest concern, and you're certainly not worried about Fromber and Hunter Brown. It's those other 2 guys, and if Arrighetti's going to get back. So right now, I think you're just appreciative that he looks as good as he is or he does, and I'm okay with him throwing 91 miles an hour on that sinker if he can spot it like he did in that last start, because his breaking stuff is so wicked. He doesn't have to throw 97 miles an hour to keep most hitters off balance.
If Lance can average 5 innings per start and pull his earned run average into the mid-3s range, I say take that money and run to the bank. Right, the one horrific start against Cincinnati warps the ERA. You take that out, his ERA is in the 3s over his other 5 starts. He'll make probably multiple more starts where he pitches effectively but runs a high pitch count and needs to be pulled after 4 1/3, having given up only 1 run, where he's just not eligible to win. But the Astros need to win more than half of McCullers' starts if he is functionally right now their number 3 starter, right? Whenever Arrighetti gets back, is it a given that Arrighetti's going to outpitch Lance McCullers? Same if Javier or Garcia happens to join the fray in August. You don't expect Gusto or Gordon to be the Astros' third best starter. If they are, it means things have kind of been blown to smithereens.
Yeah, and they need it from Lance for all the reasons that you said, because until you get Arrighetti back, the other 2 pitchers are also struggling to get deep into games. Colton Gordon's starts have averaged around 5 innings pitched, and over the last several outings, averaged giving up 3.3 runs per game. Ryan Gusto's averaged about 4 innings pitched over his last several starts, 2.3 earned runs over his last few. As dominant as Houston's bullpen has been, and it has been, can this team power through 2/5 or maybe even 3/5 of their starters only getting 12 to 15 outs per game and realistically not overextend that bullpen?
Maybe living in the American League West, you never want to write off a game in the 4th, 5th inning if it's not a blowout. But Joe Espada may have to make some difficult decisions sometimes. And a starter that doesn't go deep obviously taxes your bullpen. And to tandem them, right? McCullers, the Astros finish in Pittsburgh Thursday. Then for the weekend, it's Gordon Friday, Hunter Brown Saturday. Well, Fromber pitched the Thursday game. Gusto, it's not his turn yet. I'm not starting McCullers on 4 days rest on Sunday. No freaking way. So whether that's a bullpen game or you summon AJ Bluebaugh, send out a relief pitcher, something like that, I think they're going to have to factor in games like that when they're just out of potential bodies to be available on fewer than 5 days rest. I said penny wise, pound foolish. I'd say it's a lot more than pound foolish if they start thinking, well, yeah, starter 2. We can ask Lance McCullers to go on 4 days rest and just hold down the pitch count. So, if you're going into a game, a bullpen game, you're thinking you're putting yourself behind the 8 ball. They may just have to accept that and hope that happens to be the day where the Astros score 9 runs. Hey, they've had a few of those.
They have. It's funny you asked that, Brandon, because Chandler Rome asked Espada after the game 2 loss to the Pirates about this, about hey, are you considering going with an opener? And Espada said, we're not there yet. He likes the way, these middle relief guys have been pitching. So he doesn't really want to tinker with it. And I remember not too long ago, a whole lot of Astros fans being really upset with Ronel Blanco for going 6 innings and giving up 3 runs. I'm like, call me when you have some problems. Okay, you should be calling me now you have some problems. You wish you had Ronel Blanco to give you 6 innings and only give up 3 runs. So they're in a tough spot now. And that's why we're seeing all these reports about Dana Brown calling around, seeing if some starting pitching is available. And it's such a shame that we're back in this same position again this year after it looked like the Astros were really stocked up with starting pitchers this year. But boy, it can go in a heartbeat, can it? And you don't know when Arrighetti's going to be ready to go. They said he's tossing the ball around, but that's where they're at right now. But to me, the bottom line is you're not scoring enough. That's why you're losing these games. The 3 runs, that's not going to do it. 6 straight games, the Astros have scored 3 runs or less. That's the big thing. To me, that's house money if Gusto gets through close to 5 innings and only gives up 3 runs. That game is still manageable. Bloop and a blast, and you're down by 1 run, and then you have 4 more innings to try and catch up or take the lead. So to me, the offense has to kind of contribute here and balance this out.
Yeah, if you need a fill-in emergency starter as dictated by the calendar for 1 game on the schedule, I believe Blair Henley is available. Remember him last year? He had the 135 ERA.
Yes.
Does an opener even heal what ails this team if you're Houston, though? I mean, it seems like it's robbing from Peter to pay Paul. You still have to score at some point. Just a quick message: if you're interested in advertising your service or product on this show, you can contact our friends on the sales team at houston.sportsmap.com/advertise. The link is in our description. So we have to get to the offense. So far this week, Houston has scored, 4 runs? So far, four runs. It's been 7 games since Houston has scored more than 3 runs. Now, granted, Paul Skeens was one of those games, but Houston's offense can make a lot of pitchers look like Skeens or Cole or Greg Maddux, for that matter. Our hopes of an immediate or an imminent Jordan return were dashed. Our hopes that Christian Walker would start stringing together some productive games hasn't been met with promise. Houston's offense, which has been held together with duct tape and string, has overly been reliant upon Pena, Paredes, and Myers. And seemingly as soon as Altuve starts putting it together, now Isak has started scuffling. Even with that 2-run shot he hit with Pirates open in the Pirates opener, he's just 2 for his last 24 by my count. I've seen debates on social media that Houston has had one of the tougher schedules in the first third of the season and that they're entering this softer era. But given the low floor of Houston's offense, how much does difficulty of schedule really matter against Houston's chances?
2 for 30 on Isak to update the Grizzly stretch, and only 1 walk, right? Paredes, not a high batting average guy in his career, but the walks really boost the on-base percentage. He's just in a deep trough where he's not hitting and he's not walking, and that's how you have an OPS of under 200. But in a 6-game stretch, Josh gave the total, capped by the shutout in the Wednesday game: 3 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs, 1 run, 3 runs, 0 runs. The Astros, through the shutout Wednesday, have scored 3 or fewer runs in 56% of their games this season. I think intuitively that sounds like a lousy number. It is, but for a little context, last year's offense, which wasn't gangbusters, right? Too much feast or famine. Last year, the Astros scored 3 or fewer runs in 41% of their games. They're at 56%, capping the going into the Pittsburgh finale on Thursday. So it just hasn't been good. Well, Paredes has been one of the few guys who has been good on balance this season. Well, he's just been awful lately. Jose Altuve is not a 3-hole hitter at this point in his career in a quality lineup. 790 OPS last season, low 700s this season. You want better from your 3-hole hitter like Yordan Alvarez. Jeremy Pena continues to just be sensational. But then from 4 down, Christian Walker's back on a pace for 183 strikeouts. He set his career worst mark last season with 133 strikeouts. He's on pace for 183. Yainer Diaz keeps flopping around. Yeah, a couple of singles in the game Wednesday, but 227 hitter. OPS still sub 650. Right? Jake Myers is flattening out a little bit, not falling off a cliff as he did last season from June on. Jacob Melton, it's just been a handful of games, but he's not making anyone go, wow, what an infusion, a left-handed bat in their lineup. And then Dubons, and when Rogers plays occasionally, Caratini, 1 for his last 11 going into the Thursday game. So it's just not a real good lineup. But the caveat to that is there just aren't that many good lineups, which is why the Astros still rank in the middle of the league and in most of the key offensive categories, most notably runs scored. But if you're thinking championship contender, they're light years behind the Yankees and Tigers and about a half a dozen National League teams with the caliber of their offense. And it's just not going to get a whole lot better until 44 is in the middle of it.
They're just so inconsistent on offense is what I noticed, because pretty much for every one of these videos, I pull the numbers once a week to see what they've looked like. And for the season, Charlie hit it on the head. They're pretty mid, right? 14th in OPS. That's right where they are. But you look at the last 7 days, they're 26th in OPS, 27th in runs scored. Yet they still went 3-3 in the last 7 days, which is pretty amazing. But, I'll come on here and I'll be like, wow, they're top 5 in OPS this week. And then I come in today and I tell you they're 26th. That's why they're right in the middle, because they're either top 5 or they're bottom 5. They're just so feast or famine on this offense. And Christian Walker, every time he takes a step forward, he takes 2 steps back, has that huge clutch home run. And then the next game, 2 big strikeouts and grounds into a double play. I'm just starting to think he kind of is what he is for this season. Doesn't mean for the next 3 years. It's just sometimes you just have a down year, and we're not seeing a lot of signs that he's going to bounce back there. And he's not alone. After Altuve had that surge, he's kind of fallen back off and angered me again, trying to bunt in a really weird situation in Game 2 against the Pirates. I don't want to know what he's really thinking there, but I have a hard time seeing that we can expect the pitching to be that much better than it is right now, with Hunter and Fromber doing what they're doing, and McCullers looking like he could be your number 3. And you're basically pulling up 2 guys that have never done it before to be your 4th and 5th starters, and they're at least keeping you in games. So I don't know how much you can expect more from the pitching, especially with the bullpen being terrific. This falls on the offense, in my opinion.
Relative to reasonable preseason expectation, Walker and Diaz are killing them. Right? They're the 4-5 guys slotted in the lineup most nights. They're both carrying OPSs into June lower than what 2023 Jose Abreu finished with. Game, set, match. They either improve, plus Yordan gets back, or the Astros offense, the ceiling is not the roof, whatever Michael Jordan attempted to say a few years ago.
Even with Paredes scuffling, though, he's still seeing around 5 pitches per plate appearance. If you have Christian Walker, 5 guaranteed pitches per at bat, I think he'd average 2 outs per appearance. And while the Astros continue to jockey with Seattle at the top of the division, the Rangers have been going the other direction, as has the rest of the division. But how big would it be for Houston, just as far as playoff chances, if the Rangers slide all the way out of contention?
Well, anything that minimizes the competition would be a good thing. I mean, the Angels are within striking distance, but I don't believe anyone feels the Angels really have a roster to hang in the race into September, unless the division is just a total crap pot and, 83 wins, and even the Angels getting there. All right, Oakland, after an encouraging start, losing 17 out of 18 games. They can be in Oakland, they can be in Sacramento, and probably they can be in Las Vegas. They're still the Athletics of the last 3 years, meaning no good. So this turns into a match race between the Astros and Mariners if you only have to outrun one. And let's remember the wild card front, because the American League is so weak in totality relative to the National, right? The feeling is, geez, 86 games, you don't really deserve to win a division with that, do you? Well, someone has to win the American League West, but if it turns out the Astros win 85 and don't win it, it's not implausible that 85, 86 gets that third wild card, right? As they take the field this weekend, they're in wild card position, as well as jockeying back and forth, a half game in front, a half game back of the Mariners. So it would take an utter pratfall, free fall for the Astros to be out of it. If I'm Dana Brown, I'm calling the Orioles now and seeing if they're ready to cash out at all. Ryan O'Hearn is the perfect fit Astro, left-handed hitting, first base, corner outfielder, top 10 in the American League in OPS. The catch there is other teams are aware of it and certainly have better prospect capital that they can offer than do the Astros.
Yeah, and if the Rangers do fall off, you would think that some of those games are going to be to the Astros. So those are some division wins that you're going to stack up. That'll certainly help you. But my concern is, even within your own division, the Athletics have scored more runs than you. They're 15th in runs scored on the year. The Astros are 21st. And then you go over to OPS, kind of the same story. This year, the OPS, like I mentioned, the Astros are at 14th. Athletics are at 7th. I mean, you're saying the A's are that much better at hitting than you with the guys that you have, at least right now? That's a big concern for me. But I know at the end of the year, it's just, can you win your division and get in the playoffs? But I mean, we're Astros fans. Just getting in the playoffs, That's not what we've been accustomed to outside of last year. We expect a little more, especially with, Charlie always mentions they have a top 10 payroll. Why are they just barely getting in? Why do the A's have a better offense than you? They got to get some of this stuff figured out, and it can't just be Yordan. It can't. These other guys have to pick it up. And imagine where you would be if Jeremy Pena wasn't just going off this year on a heater.
What's Dana Brown's threshold for pain when it comes to a trade? Because obviously this season has taught us they're taking a more big picture approach, because I think if they were all in for this year, they would have kept Tucker and just let him walk like they've done with everything else, or with all their other big expiring stars here. But you don't really have much to trade, so it's going to hurt if you bring over anything of value. So I just wonder, how hurt are we talking about here that they're willing to do?
Yeah. By the way, Yusei Kikuchi is dealing for the Angels after a sluggish start over his last 5-6 sub-2 earned run average. He looked quite nice in the back end of the Astros rotation right now. Oh, well.
Yeah. The threshold for pain, I'm worried it's going to be even more. Charlie brings up Kikuchi, and even all the executives thought the Astros got fleeced in that Kikuchi trade last year for how much they gave up. And then MLB's looking at it now and going, wow, the Astros didn't give up anything. Let's ask for 6 players this time. What would stop them? Because obviously that didn't pan out. I did notice on the broadcast the other day, they said that Dana Brown was just really praying that Jacob Melton wouldn't have to be included in one of those trades. And he feels like he dodged a bullet that last year they didn't have to deal him. So that seems to be somebody Dana really prioritizes. We've only seen a few starts out of him. Defensively, looks pretty good out there. I like how athletic the outfield looks, but time will tell if his bat's gonna hang on there. At least he got on base against Skeens. I'll give him that. But I think it's going to cost a lot, Brandon, because if you're another team, why wouldn't you ask for as much as humanly possible, knowing that it's a numbers game? The Astros don't have a lot of good prospects, so you get a bunch of them and hope that maybe 1 or 2 of them will stick.
Yeah, they were much more willing to give up Drew Gilbert than they were Jacob Melton. I wish that had not been the case. One last reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to click like on the video. And if you listen on podcasts and apps like Apple or Spotify, give us a 5-star rating while you're here. Our next scheduled episode drops on Monday. So make sure you subscribe to this channel because we also drop emergency episodes as big news breaks. So make sure those notifications are on. Thanks for listening. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. And until next time, go Stros.